Hello, welcome to Geeky Hijinks, home of the mischief makers, and today we're looking at caveats. So today's review, guys, is a special one because Shudder have given me a screening for this, which means I get to watch this film before everyone else. That depends if it's good or not. So, don't worry, I will give you my honest opinion, whether it be a great horror film or a bad horror film. Just because I've got a screener doesn't mean I'm going to be bought out like Rotten Tomatoes. So the film was written and directed by Damon McCarthy, and it's about a guy called Isaac. Now Isaac's a bit of a loner, he's a bit of a recluse, and he's approached by his landlord called Barrett, and Barrett wants to help him get up on his feet because he's suffering from memory loss. He can't really work out his past, so Barrett wants to do him a favour and says to him, look, my niece, her mum's gone missing, her dad just committed suicide, and the house in which he committed suicide in is where she's holed up in. She will not leave. So until I saw that arrangement, can you go to the home and spend a few nights with her, and I'll pay you £200 per night. Now Isaac's not too impressed because when he gets to the home, he's told he's got to wear this harness the entire time he's there, which stops him from going into certain rooms because he's attached to it by a chain. And through the course of the evening, he discovers some horrific and very disturbing discoveries which lead him fighting for his own life. So what I like about this film, I love the atmosphere. It just drips with dread. Now if anyone's played the Resident Evil 7 games, and if you haven't, this reference may be lost on you, but those games are set in this really dark, grimy, dirty, unkept home in which you're trying to discover a few mysteries, uncover a few truths, and that's kind of what Isaac does here. And as he's going through the home, which seems gigantic, he can only go in a certain amount of rooms, and he's trying to discover what happened in this place, and he discovers some horrific things that he does, which has him fearing for his own life. And Olga's being really creepy because Olga's looking like one of those weeping angels from Doctor Who. She like dares sometimes with her mouth wide open like this, with a nose bleeding. It's really creepy. There's also some genuinely terrifying moments. Now I'm talking moments that make The Conjuring 3 look like a Disney film. Now, that's not to say they're spread out for the entire movie, because they are not. There's a few sections in this film which gave me the creep factor times 1,000. Like, I had the hairs on the back of my neck. I felt cold. I felt terrified. There was a few scenes. I'm not going to spoil it for you because this film, I'm getting ahead of myself. These moments make watching this film alone great, and I wish the film was built around these moments because they're so few and far between. It's disappointing, but they're so effective when on the screen. I really wanted more of them. And the film leaves gaps for you to fill out, which is also a problem. So the film doesn't hold your hand, there's a mystery element, it lets you, the viewer, use your big brain for once to try and work out what happened here. But when you do start putting the pieces together, you still don't get a clear picture. So I appreciate they didn't treat it like a dummy. At least give us a few letters, because you can't base Scrabble and make words without letters. And in here, it lets you guess the words. But yeah, that's a terrible analogy. You know what I mean, it's confusing at times. I love the first part of this film. It was so mysterious. It really pulled me in straight away. I want to know what's going on. Like, who is Isaac? Why did he lose his memory? Why is the uncle being sketchy? Why is Olga being strange? What's with the harness? What's with the home? The mum, Olga's mum, has gone missing. Where is she? The dad, Olga's dad, killed himself in the basement. Why? This bunny rabbit toy thing. What's the deal with that? There's so much mystery, and again, dripping with that mood, that atmosphere, that feeling of dread, the sound design, the cinematography. It is like setting you up for what could be my favourite Shudder film. Unfortunately, it drops the ball halfway through. Which leads me into what I didn't like about the film. It's everything from the middle onwards, because it gets to a certain part of the film, and all I'm going to say is red jacket. Now there's a part where Olga is wearing a red jacket. That's not a spoiler, but from that point onwards, when a few truths and things are revealed, the film takes a direction I really wish it didn't, because that mystery, like I mentioned, everything was putting you in. And there comes a point in a horror film where they have to tell you why, what, where, and how. And some horror films depend on that. And if it's not satisfactory to us as the viewer, that's when it can go douche and you're tapping out of it. And that's kind of what happened here. When you realise what this film's kind of about and a few things get revealed, it can be very confusing. Now when I finished watching this film, I was confused. I knew enough to work out what kind of happened. Like I said, this film doesn't hold your hand. But at the same time, this film is very confusing. I also admittedly fell asleep in parts because this film can get a bit repetitive. When Isaac enters the house, he literally goes through the hallways, door to door, Olga's room, creepy moment, back to the kitchen, go through the hallways, door to door, creepy moment. And it does that, and it does that, to the point where it does get a bit repetitive, and you're like, okay, come on, can we get somewhere please? And don't get me wrong, when those scary moments kick in, they really kick in. But everything between that just feels a bit, a bit lethargic. Also the bunny. You'd think the bunny being on the main poster would play a massive part of this film. And I have a theory, and I'm not going to spoil this film, but I have a theory as to what the rabbit is and what it's doing, because really you think, what is this? You think, is it like an Annabelle? Is it going to be a creepy version of Annabelle but as a bunny rabbit toy? And it is, but it also isn't at the same time. It's not fully explained what it's there for. And also those horror moments, and I'm not lying to you, those horrific moments, I'm not going to spoil it, and I really wish I could just talk to you about it, because it generally put my hair up on the back of my neck, because it's very terrifying. It just comes out of nowhere, but it's so good. And I wish Damien McCarthy had made the film all about that and not where it went with, because that's some of the best scares I've seen in a long time. They're chilling moments, but they're so short, but they're so effective. And this is where the Vigil comes in. Now, the way those moments made me feel in the Caveat film is how the Vigil made me feel throughout the entire thing. The Vigil made me feel dread throughout. I didn't want to. The house was small, yet it felt big at times, and then it felt very claustrophobic. And going into the cellar, and I remember I had a little tear moment in my eye. No, I wasn't crying or anything, but the only your eyes water because you're that scared. That was the Vigil. And this film had those moments of pure dread, but they weren't woven throughout like Vigil. They were just so few and far between, but they're so good. I wish there was more than them. But yeah, I didn't get my way. Overall, guys, this film had so much promise. That first half was excellent, just dripped with mystery. The cinematography, the sound design, the atmosphere. It was moody. You could feel dread as soon as Isaac entered that house. And those scares are some of the best scares I've seen in a horror film. And Damien McCarthy is a good director. He knows what he's doing. I just wish he'd done the scary parts more, and that was the main story, because if he did, he could have had an excellent sleeper horror film on his hands. Instead, it went in a direction I didn't like. It made me feel a bit bored at times. I fell asleep a couple of times, only to be woken up by the loud jump scare sounds. When I was like, ah, and when I saw it, now how scary it is to be asleep. Open your eyes and see the most terrifying thing you've ever seen. I'm like, ah, and you've got to rewind to find out what you just missed. And those bits are amazing, but I did fall asleep. Also, the bunny. What the hell is the bunny for? Never fully explained. I have a theory, but I could be wrong. I'm not going to do a explaining video. I was going to do a spoiler filled video halfway through this. I'm not, because I do want you guys to watch this film just to see the promise I was telling you about, because this isn't bad. It's just such a massive lost opportunity, which is very frustrating. And it's also confusing, because there's some elements of the film you can figure out quite easily on your own, but as it ends, you're left asking, so did this happen to that? And what happened to that person? And did they do that to this? And it's very head scratching. So I'm going to give this film a bronze win, and it's a one-time spin, because although I appreciated what I was trying to do, they did drop the ball a little bit, and I'm only going to watch this once. So guys, that was my review of Caveat. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it a snooze fest or the greatest film we've ever seen? Comment in the comments and let me know, because I genuinely am interested. And if you like this video, drop me those likes, because it always does help. But until next time, stay out of trouble.